Hello, Albuquerque.
In those days, it was 41, so there was a lot of racism.
I'm a Boeing 737 first officer.
I did a lot of research and I recommend everyone do the same.
And now suddenly you're addicted, literally to heroin.
Where were you born? I was born in Cambridge, England.
Both my parents were drug addicts.
Trigger warning. The following episode contains topics and images that are not suitable for some viewers and may be uncomfortable or upsetting and or triggering to some viewers and or listeners. Continue at your own risk. Welcome to another episode. I'm your host, James Graves Brown. I'm joined with another special guest today, my little brother, my youngest little brother, Derryk Brown. Welcome to the show, Derryk.
Thanks.
You're such a weirdo.
Yeah.
I want to start today's conversation with a little bit about Brandon and I guess the time before he passed. Want to talk about running through when he passed and the aftermath of that. So tell me about how close you guys were prior to him passing.
It was awesome. We were super close because he had just gotten off of drugs and he didn't spend any time with his friends, so he was at home all the time and he didn't have anyone to hang out with. So when I would take lunch from school, I'd go home every day and go spend time with him. He'd make me a big old lunch and we'd laugh and hang out until it was time for me to go back to school.
Tell me a little bit more specifically about some times I know that you and him got into some trouble and did some crazy shit, and this is the place to be vulnerable, and I want to hear those stories. So I know that there's one that you guys did some real bad shit, and precursor to this, you know, we're all human, we all make mistakes, we're all young at some point, so yes, I was a piece of shit sometimes when I was younger too. I did some stupid ass shit, so prior to hearing these stories, there should be no judgment. I don't want anybody casting any judgment or anything on Derryk or Brandon because, you know, what they did is fucking stupid and bad, but also I just kind of want to get these stories out there because I'm sure other people did dumb shit like similar, and, you know, just people should own it and be vulnerable about it and talk about it. So tell me about... There is a couple little instances, but I want to hear the big one. You know which one I'm talking about.
Maybe, I think so.
Well, let's hear out with it, and if it's not the right one, I'll let you know.
All right. When I was 16, I was working at Payne's Nurseries in the summer. He would always come hang out with me, and we'd smoke for lunch, or even when I was working. And I got mad at my mom, and I ran away. I didn't want to go home. So he came and picked me up, and we went to our friend's house, and we were staying there, and we got super drunk, and we wanted to have a fun time, so we were like, let's go do something. So we went and snuck through a fence, and we were in a construction site, and there was a bunch of tractors. It was the rental place.
It was a rental place.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so there's a bunch of tractors and stuff, so we're driving the tractors around and lifting shit up, and we got a forklift and we lifted the fence up and until it was ready to burst, and then all the posts just started popping out, do all the way down. The whole fence fell down.
Jeez, dude.
And then we got in the semi and found a bunch of stuff in there, and then we were like, nah, we're not done. We still want to have some more fun. So there across the street there's a car dealership, so we went over there and we climbed over the fence. Even though they had the razor wire, there's this little spot where we got through. And we were looking through all the cars back there. But there was all junk cars back there, and all the good cars were in the bays. So my buddy was like, "Are you down?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he gave me a rock, and I went and smashed the window.
Oh shit,
and
dude!
We went inside the garage, and there was.
Let me stop you there for just a second. I just want to say also that I don't condone this shit. This is fucking nuts. I can't believe you guys did this shit.
No.
But again, no judgment. We're all young. We all did stupid shit. So proceed.
I definitely wouldn't do it again. But we smashed the window, we went in, and there's a bunch of badass cars, and there was a SUV with TVs everywhere, and then we were looking through all those cars and grabbed a bunch of stuff, and then my buddy's like, hey, I know where the keys are for a car. And so he went and grabbed them, and then we went back out, and he's like, check it out, it's over here. And it was actually that place's like delivery van, and we stole the van and went driving around, and we went and drank some more and stuff, and then we wanted to have some fun, so we went to a 4-wheeler track, and we were like ramping. I've never, like, it was crazy how crazy we were driving this thing. We were ramping at like 20 feet in the air. I thought it was gonna fall apart when we were hitting the ground, but we were having a blast, and it had just rained, not like super crazy, but everything was wet. And then we went over this big hill and went down, and then we turned back around to go back up. And when we went up, we were going back over the lip of it, but it was like a steep little invert. So when the van went over, the middle sunk down and all 4 tires were in the air. And so we were stuck there, and when the car's on, the lights have to be on. You couldn't turn those lights off. So the lights were shining over the highway.
Oh, shit.
And so, and we're like, me and Brandon were like, let's just go. We can't be here. Let's go. And my buddy was like, no, I can't get in trouble again. We got to take this back. And we're like, what? We're not taking it back, dude. What the heck? He's like, yeah, we got to take it back. We got to get it unstuck. And he's like freaking out. So we're like, all right, man. So we stayed 2 hours trying everything we could, boards, everything, trying to get this thing unstuck. And with the whole time the lights shining over the highway. And then it was like pitch black. All we could see was the cars going on the highway and a neighborhood down in the distance, because it was like a real big field. And then I look over my shoulder and I see some headlights coming towards us through the field. And there's nobody out there. There's the only people that come out there is cops. So I was like, oh, cops. And there wasn't any, it was just headlights, but we were pretty damn sure. And me and Brandon were in front trying to push the front of it up to get it down the hill. So we were on the outside and my buddy was on the inside. And it was super pitch black, so we couldn't like see anything. And Brandon took off and I was following him, and I looked back to see the SUV coming out through the field towards us, and it was still just headlights. And when I looked forward, Brandon was gone, so I couldn't see, so I had no idea where he was or which way he went. And I didn't see where my buddy went either. And I looked back at the SUV again, and I was running away from it towards the neighborhood. And when I turned my head back forward, and because I was looking over, and the highway's that way, and there's a frontage road next to the highway. And when I turned back forward, all the cops were all set up, and we didn't see them setting up the whole time. So when we took off, all the lights, the spotlights went on, do, and they were all on me. And so I was lit up all crazy, and I had just visited a juvie, and the dude told us that he had ran, and it made it so much worse.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm caught. So I was like, dang it, I gotta give up. So I jumped on the ground and spread out, my arms and legs all stupid in the middle of the field. And then I was like yelling at myself, oh man, you're stupid, I can't believe you did this. And it was all lit up. And then all of a sudden it got dark. Everything got dark, and I was like, what the heck? And when I laid down, I didn't realize that the weeds were a little bit taller than I was when I was laying down, and they were like further out. So when I laid down, I disappeared from their sight.
Holy shit.
So I was like, oh yeah, and so I army crawled, and it was all wet, so I was soaking wet and through mud and everything, went through cactus, went through barbed wire, and I army crawled all the way till I got to the neighborhood wall, and I was going to jump over the wall, and right when I was going to jump over, a cop was shining his light into that backyard, so I ducked back down, and I ran all the way along the neighborhood, along that wall, and then I got to the road, and I was going to jump through the fence and go up another road that I knew one of our buddies lived on. So I was going to go down that road, and then right as I jumped through the fence, I heard cars coming, so I was like, I better play it safe. So I went back through the fence, and I went and hid behind a bush, and just to see what cars were going to pass by. And it was 4 cops in a row looking. And then I jumped through after they went, and I thought it was just like right down the next road. It was way further than I thought, and there was cars that passed me. And luckily, all the cars that passed me weren't cops. But as soon as I got off the road, there was just a bunch of cops again. So it was like the perfect time for me to like cut through that neighborhood. And then I went through that neighborhood, and I looked back once I was up on that like across the road and on a hill, so I could see into that field. And there was a helicopter, and you could see flashlights everywhere, and there were SUVs, there was four-wheelers, there were dogs everywhere. And I was like, oh no, they're gonna track me. So I kept jumping back and forth through the fence as I was going up. And I got to my buddy's house, and I forgot that he was at a camp, so he wasn't there. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go to this gas station, which was way further than I thought it was. And we had already been up all night too.
What? Real quick, what time did this start at?
Well, I mean,
what time did you guys start drinking at? And where the fuck did the drinking idea come from? Like, what possessed you guys?
I don't know. We were young. We just wanted to have fun.
Okay.
I actually had a date, and I blew it off for that. I shouldn't have done that. I should have went to the date.
Okay, anyway.
But
what time was this at now that you're deciding to go to the gas station?
Well, it started at like 4 p.m. And then we went and started doing stuff at like 11. And as I'm running away, it was like 2 in the morning.
Jeez.
And so I kept going through neighborhoods, and as I was going through all the neighborhoods, I kept jumping over fences just in case they were tracking me. So it would take them a lot longer to catch up to me. And then finally, it took me hours. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning by the time I saw that gas station, and I was across the street in a field, a big old field, and it was just cactuses everywhere. And I was so wasted and tired that I was walking to the gas station, and I passed out in the middle of walking. And just hit the ground, and I fell asleep. And I woke up like 15 minutes later, all cold, and in the middle of a bunch of cactuses. Luckily, I didn't land in any. And then stood back up and went to the gas station, and I had 50 cents, and I called you, and you didn't answer, and I called you again, and you answered, and I was like, yo, we did something bad, come pick me up. And I was like, I just need you to help me, it's real bad. And you're like, bro, I'm sleeping, walk. And you hung up. And that was all my money, so I couldn't call anybody else. I tried to call my buddy Collect, and he didn't answer. Of course, it was like 4:35 in the morning.
Holy shit.
And I was super cold. I didn't have a jacket, and I was all wet, and everywhere was cold. And so I was like trying to find somewhere to lay down for a minute, and I couldn't find anywhere, and I didn't want to like be seen laying down anywhere. So I saw like a dumpster in the back, and I like went over there, and the dumpster was like producing heat. So I like laid in the back of it. It was all gross, but I like laid away from it, but it was a little warmer than everywhere else. So I laid down for like 20 minutes, fell asleep, and then I woke up, and I just started walking down that road all the way down, and it was like 6 miles to home. And I walked all the way, and I even came across cops, but I was way away from that place, so they didn't stop me or anything. And I made it home right before our dad was going to work, so I was like, I can't show up at the house this early and like this. He's gonna know something was up. So I was like, I gotta go find somewhere to lay down for a minute, so that he doesn't know what's going on. So you had that car in the back of the house, so I went and sat in that car, and I fell asleep, and just to wait for him to go to work, and then I was gonna go inside, and then I fell asleep, and I wasn't asleep even 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden I was getting shaken awake, and I was like, oh no, my dad found me like that, like I can't believe he found me that fast. And I like jumped, and it was Brandon waking me up, and he's like, oh, you made it out. I was like, no way, you made it. And he's like, I knew if you made it out, you were gonna be in the trailer or you were gonna be in the car. He's like, you're in the car. I was like, yeah. And
oh my god. Okay, so real quick before we continue, I don't remember you calling me.
You were asleep. You didn't remember even when I told you the next day.
Okay, and to that note, I'm sorry. Like, that's not a very big brother thing to do.
You were asleep.
Yeah, but and I guess to my defense, like I've always been the person that I can't function without sleep. Like some people can just go and go and go, and I can't fucking do it. I can't hardly stay up sometimes. Like I have a real struggle with not sleeping, and when I am asleep, I have a really hard time waking up. So again, I'm sorry. That sounds fucking horrible, and I feel really guilty about that. I feel really, really bad. Like I'm an empathetic person, and putting myself in your shoes, that fucking sounds horrible, and I feel awful for it. So I'm sorry. But also, you shouldn't have been fucking around and doing dumb shit like that.
No, yeah, it was all good. It was a good lesson.
Okay, so you and Brandon's waking you up. You guys are still drunk, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, we're coming off of it. Yep.
How did Brandon get out of that situation?
Yeah, he told me. I was like, oh, how did you get out? You disappeared. And he said, yeah, I couldn't see where you went either. And he had took off. He had turned when I went straight. He turned and he went to the road right away. And when he went to the road, there was 4 cops that came, and one of them stopped right in front of him and put the spot. And he jumped in a bush, and this cop put the spotlight on the bush on him, and he said he just stayed still, and he stayed still for an hour. That cop stared at the bush for an hour with the spotlight, and he just stayed still, completely still, think like, does he see me? Does he see me? And he moved it off, and he jumped out of the bush, and he said he just ran until he got home. And same thing, we called my buddy, and we're like, well, he already had 2 strikes. If he got caught, he was going to go away for a long time. And
what a fucking moron! First of all,
yeah.
Who instigated this? Whose idea was it to first of all start drinking? Was it like a mutual decision or?
Yeah, it says mutual.
Okay, and whose decision was it that the idea of fun was to go fucking commit crimes? And listen, I want to say that these are victimless crimes because nobody got hurt, but financially this affected somebody. This affected both businesses that you guys fucked around with. So it's not a victimless crime at all, so that sucks. But also, I'm glad nobody else got hurt and you guys didn't do something worse. But whose idea was it to say, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's go fucking break some laws.
I think it was our buddies. I think he came out with the idea like, let's go do something fun, and we didn't say no. We said, yeah, let's go do it. We didn't even know where we were going. He just said, follow me.
So when he says, let's go do something fun, what did you picture happening?
I don't know. I'm just gonna go see.
See, okay, so not to judge you at all, but had that been me in that situation, when that guy said, let's go do something fun, follow me, I'd have been like, cool, let's go. And then when I saw what his plan was, I'd have been like, you're a fucking moron, and I'm going to go have fun on the couch. Fuck this. Like, the fact that you guys went through it speaks worlds about your character, first of all. And maybe not in the best way, but also maybe not in the worst way, but life is, I guess, full of experiences, and you guys had a fucking crazy experience, so there is that. But, okay, so then he says, let's go do this fun thing. You guys get there, and you guys are just right away on board? Both of you?
Yeah.
Well, and do you think that the alcohol played a lot into that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Definitely. I think we would have stopped a lot earlier. Like, we wouldn't have went across the street for sure.
Like, you would have still participated in trashing the construction yard?
We would have trashed it. I think we just drove the
tractors around.
Tractors and stuff.
See, that if you guys just drove tractors around a construction yard and left them there, okay, that's probably not the end of the world. Nobody's going to get hurt. All you did was waste a little bit of gas. As long as you didn't destroy property or anything, cool. But the second you started lifting the fence up, that fucking escalated everything to a whole nother level of crime.
That was homie.
That's fucking awful.
So yeah, me and Brandon didn't. I mean, I did break the window and stuff, but yeah, I mean, homie asked me to, but like none of the stuff that was crazy. Like, we said, let's do it. Everything was homie said, let's do it.
And this is the person with 2 strikes making these horrible decisions.
Yeah.
Real quick, is this somebody that I know?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
It's not somebody who Brandon had drug interactions with?
No, you wouldn't know them.
Okay, good.
They were around very little.
Good. Well, I'm glad they're not around anymore.
It was one of his friends from high school. His mom got married, or his dad got married to this girl, and it was her son. So his friend's stepbrother. So that's how we met him.
Okay. That sounds crazy, but okay. All right, fast forward back to Brandon waking you up. What'd you guys do after that?
We went inside and we ate. He made us some breakfast, and we were like, oh man, I don't know if homie got away. And we tried calling him, tried calling his house, and he wouldn't answer, and nobody was answering. And we kept trying hours and hours, and he wasn't answering. We were like, he had to have gotten caught. And we're like, I hope he doesn't say anything about us. And then it wasn't until 2 o'clock the phone rang, and it was homie. And he said that he did the same thing. He ran, and he was so scared because he didn't want to get another strike that he just kept running, and he was throwing up while he was running because he was so exhausted, and he just kept running until he got home. And then when he got home, he passed out because he was so exhausted, and then he woke up, and that's when he called us.
Well, again, there's something to be said for that too. You guys wouldn't have been having to run and fucking exert your body so hard if you didn't get into trouble in the first place. There's something else that you and Brandon did that's on a much lesser scale, but Brandon got a DUI out of it, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So tell me about that night.
Yeah, it was New Year's.
Yep.
He was, him and his buddy came by, and I was there, and Fabian was there too, but
Fabian is our other brother, by the way.
we didn't let him do anything bad because he was good, so we didn't let him do bad things. And so we didn't let him drink, and we wanted to go. We had a couple beers, and we drank them, but we drank them right away, and we wanted to drink some more. And then they also wanted to get some girls and like have a party sort of, so because our dad wasn't there. So we drove to these other people's house, and we hung out there for a little bit, and we drank some more over there, and they gave us some more beers, and we took it, but they didn't want to leave. So we left there and went back to the house, and then it was still early, and then they called some other girls, and they were out of town. So they're like, oh, let's go get them. And we had already been drinking a bunch, and I was way smaller than them. I was already smashed. And so when we were driving out there, I was passing out, trying to stay awake. And we got out there, and these 4 girls and 1 guy came, and so they all jumped in.
Okay, hold on. Let me back up a little bit here. You said they when you were referring to Brandon, and I guess there's somebody else?
Yeah, his friend.
A friend that I know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think so. Is in high school, is on his basketball team.
Okay. So those 2 and you
Yep.
go out of town to pick somebody up.
Yeah.
And you end up picking up 5 people.
Yeah.
So there is 8 people in the car.
Yeah.
Like that fast math. 8 people in a 5-seat car.
In a small 5-seat car, yeah.
Very small 5-seat. That is fucking ape shit. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so everybody in the back seat had someone on their lap, and the passenger had someone on their lap. And Brandon couldn't because he was driving.
Duh.
But so we were drinking more on the way back, and we finished everything that we were drinking, so there was nothing in the car.
Jeez.
But we had more at the house. And then we were gonna go buy some more, because the dude was over 21, but he wasn't even drinking. He was wanted to be with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend wanted to go hang out with her friends who were coming with us. And so we were gonna go to the store real quick to grab some beer and some condoms, and we were in the turning lane, and the turning lane didn't change green. The straight turned green, and it was getting close to midnight, so he's like, we don't want to miss it, just go straight, because we could have went around the neighborhood that way to the store. So he turned to the straight lane and went straight, which was the legal lane change, and the cop was coming up on that lane. So he was right behind us, and we pulled in front of him. So he pulled us over, and they came up, and they saw that there was 8 people in the car.
500 people in the car.
Yep, so they went back to the car, and 8 cop cars came. So it was lit up all crazy, and then they started pulling one person out at a time. Well, they pulled him out first. They were doing the DUI stuff on him, and then they put him in the car, and then we were all being like chill with the cops. We weren't getting all riled up or anything. So the cops who pulled us over, it was him and an SUV, and they told the rest of them they could go. It was all good because we weren't being crazy. So it was just them two, and then they pulled the girl off of the guy's lap in front, and then they pulled him out, and they did stuff with him, and then they pulled the seat up, and then the girl got off my lap because I was behind the passenger seat, and then she got out, and then, like I said, I was all smashed, and I was just like falling asleep. So I was like, she got out, so I was like thinking that I gotta get out, and I decided to lean to get out, and the cop like grabbed me and shoved me back into the seat, and he's like, where are you going? And I was just getting out. And he said, I didn't tell you to get out yet. I was all right, I'll wait then. And then they pulled the girls out, and they didn't talk to them. They didn't do anything. They just told them to go sit on the curb. So, and then when they pulled each of the guys out, like, we all got searched and like questioned, and so they put his other buddy in the cop car, and then they pulled me out, and he's like, before he pulled me out, he said, how many beers did you drink? And the whole time we were pulled over, and they were asking Brandon and his friend how many they drank, and they just kept saying 1 beer. So I was like, that's what I gotta say, I guess. So I was like, 1 beer. And he's like, no. He said, I'm gonna ask you again, how many beers have you had to drink? And I was like, 1 beer. And he's like, all right. He's like, come on. He's like, how many beers did you drink? And I was like, 2 beers. And he's like, come on. He's like, I'm going to ask you one more time. If you're not serious with me, it's going to get bad for you. He's like, how many beers did you drink? And I was like, 4 beers. And he's like, all right. And I definitely wasn't 4 beers, way more than that. But I wasn't going to say 3. So I just said 4. But he pulled me out, and then they put me on the cop car and handcuffed me and everything. And then he's like, do you got anything sharp in your pockets? And I was like, no. And he reached in my pocket, and he pulled his hand out all quick. Like, he stabbed himself, and like shook his hand, and he got like mad, and he reached his hand in my pocket all mad and pulled it out. And I forgot that we had went and ate that day before, and I grabbed a bunch of toothpicks from the counter. So he stabbed himself with a toothpick, and he grabbed him, and he threw them all over the road.
Oh my god!
All mad, and I was laughing, and then so he's gonna put me in the back of the cop car, and they're harassing the other dude too, because they assumed that he was drinking too, but he wasn't doing anything wrong, and so he didn't end up getting arrested. And
That's crazy, because I have friends who got arrested being in the presence of minors who were drinking, and whether they did anything or had anything or even knew these minors, because they were in their presence, they got charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Well, they were definitely hassling him for a long time, but no, he ended up not getting arrested. And all the girls, they were drunk and everything. They didn't get questioned at all. They just had the rights come and get them.
That's typical.
Yeah.
I have an experience with that as well. But, okay, so...
Oh, but then he's going to put me in the back of the cop car. And there was, like I said, there was only 2 cars. And one was the cop car and one was the SUV with the K9.
Uh-huh.
And they were going to put me in the K9 truck. And I was like, don't put me in there, dude. And he's like, no, it's all right. You won't have any problem. I was like, don't put me in the back of that dog. And he's all freaking going crazy. He's like, no, it's split up. It's okay. And he opened the door and the dog was like going at the freaking cage at the wall. And he's like, maybe I shouldn't put you in there. And I was like, yeah, dude, don't put me in there. And so he told the other guy, he's like, where should I put him? He's like, I can't put him in there. And he's like, should I just put him in the other car, in your car? And like, yeah, go for it. So I didn't see where they had gotten put, I didn't know. But when I got put in the car, they were both in there. So we were all in the back seat of that cop car, and we were all laughing and messing around. And then Brandon was like, wait, look. And I looked at the camera on his dash, and it had the time on it, and it was 11:59 and 50 seconds. And it says that we were all 10, 9. So we had the countdown on the back of the cop car.
Oh my god, dude. So much to say. Again, poor choices. But speaking on these poor choices, and okay, not to be fair, not all of your stories with Brandon are bad. I specifically wanted you to talk about the bad ones. Now, there was plenty of good ones, but I also didn't want to shine a light on Brandon like he was an angel either, because, none of us are. He was a normal person. He was a great fucking person, but he also made bad decisions. And I think part of that, for both of you guys, stems from problems with addiction.
Yeah.
Speak on that for a minute. Now, I know that Brandon had his struggles with drugs for a little while. That was sort of short-lived. It was bad, but it was short-lived. He didn't do anything really, really crazy when he was on the drugs. It was just more of a devastating feeling knowing that he was doing those drugs.
Yeah.
He didn't get in trouble, he didn't get arrested, he didn't overdose, he didn't do anything stupid.
Yep.
But it was just a devastating feeling knowing that my brother was out there doing these drugs with some fucking kid that I couldn't stand.
Yep.
So that was short-lived, but I feel like both of you guys, and to an extent Fabian, also have a problem with alcohol. Maybe not anymore. I know you probably haven't drinking in what years?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can go forever without... I don't need to drink. I do it socially every once in a blue fucking moon. I'll have a beer or a drink.
I have a beer once or twice a year.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that for me. And I just don't have a desire for it. So to that note, I would say that maybe not anymore. You don't have a struggle with that, with alcohol as an addictive, an addictive trait, but Brandon did. Brandon struggled with alcohol, I feel like the same way that Dad struggles with alcohol, to where if he starts drinking, he's not going to stop till shit hits the fan.
No.
Well,
I don't agree completely. When he was having fun, when we were trying to have fun, that's what we were doing. We're trying to have fun.
Okay, but to be fair, on that note, I had plenty of fun with Brandon without ever getting a drink involved.
Well, yeah, of course. I always had fun with him, and didn't matter what we were doing.
But he also had fun without drinking. But
yeah.
So where did that drive for alcohol consumption come from during those times? Especially for Brandon, because I know that there was many times that he got in trouble because of alcohol.
Yeah.
Maybe was it just bad decision making?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, we just had a lot of fun. We just had a lot of good times when we were messed up together, and we'd drink, and a bunch of stories. So there was just a bunch of times where there was a bunch of times where nothing happened, and we just had a good time.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, there was a bunch of times where bad stuff happened too, but we would just drink. But he wasn't like, I gotta go drink.
Right.
And
that's not what I was saying at all.
At the end, the only reason that he was drinking at all, he didn't even want to drink. The only reason he did is because he did everything he could to get Dad to stop drinking.
Yes, I remember.
He wouldn't. No matter what he did, he wouldn't do it.
Brandon told me himself. I
Brandon
remember.
said, okay, if I can't get him to stop drinking with anything else, he said that I'm going to make him feel what it feels like to have somebody you love drunk all the time.
It's fucking awful.
Yep.
And I wish he wouldn't have made that decision, because he'd probably still be around.
Yep.
I get what he was trying to get out of it, but also it's sort of a waste. Well, it's the biggest waste, because Brandon lost his life and Dad still drinks.
Yep.
And it's fucking shitty. And I miss Brandon. But lots of good stories, lots of good memories. Again, Brandon was a great person. He loved animals, which I really appreciated. He probably had a better respect for animals than I did. He was a good brother. We had a lot of fun with him. You know, again, he had all the flaws, but all of us have all the flaws, so that, you know, you can't judge him on that. But he was a very athletic person. He had good self-discipline for the most part, and he was impressive. So, let's get off Brandon now. I just wanted to, you know, touch on that. I do want to know, when he passed, obviously it was devastating for all of us, but what was going on in your head when Brandon passed? As far as, like, what were your thoughts?
About him passing?
I don't know, just in general. Of course, sadness.
Well, I don't know. I don't.
How did you process that? Like, did you have very much experience with people passing before that?
No.
Yeah, so how did that being... Okay, so I had people pass before that, like friends and shit like that. So I had gone through these crazy emotions and hopeless feelings before, but never to the extent of when Brandon passed. It was this whole another level of loss and devastation and hopelessness. How was it experiencing that great a loss as your first time?
It sucked. I mean, it still is. It's crazy. It just felt like a dream. It didn't feel like it could be real.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move on from Brandon now. I'm really curious to see how that was for you as opposed to what I went through. Brandon, again, was my best friend. At the time, I didn't have anybody that close to me, and I spent a lot of time with him, and I'm grateful for the time I did spend with him. I'm glad I made the decisions to hang out with him as much as I did, and you know, bringing him into my work and introducing him to people. All of that was crazy timing. It was almost like I knew something was going to happen, and it's fucking nuts. Mm-hmm. Anyway, though, I want to talk about another crazy story, because you had some crazy shit happen to you without Brandon being around, where I'm sure the alcohol was involved. I don't recall the entire story, but I'd like to hear it again. Something happened to you in Hyde Park.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Do you recall this?
Yep.
Yeah. Tell me about that story.
Yep. We were going to, my best friend at the time was a girl that I went to high school with. That was the last person I would have ever expected to be friends with. But after high school, we talked and we got along pretty good. And then we just started hanging out, and it wasn't anything more than friends. She was just my best friend.
Real quick, who is it? I'll edit it out. Okay, go ahead.
And she's like, well, you wanna go to a rave? And I was like, yeah, let's go do it. And she's like, all right, well, this other girl we went to school with is going, and we can go with them. And so we went over to their house, and so we were going to go with them, and they had some other people going with them, and so their car was full, and she didn't want to drive because we wanted to do some Molly and stuff, so she didn't want to drive, so she didn't want to take her car. So there was another guy going, and she said she had seen him around, and that was the first time I've ever seen him. But everyone was saying that he was rich and that he always had bud and stuff. So he was driving, and he had this girl with him. And they're like, well, can we go with you? And he's like, yeah, let's go. So we drove with him out there to rave, and we had a good time out there. And then partied all night, and then we came back in the morning. We made it back to her house, and we were just all chilling there. And we would always, me and would always smoke together, but we didn't have anything, and I wanted to smoke, and homie had something, and he was like, well, who wants to go up to Hyde Park and watch the sunrise and smoke a blunt? And I was like, let's go. You want to go? And she's like, yeah, let's go do it. So we jumped back in the car with him and that other girl, and we went up there, and he had a bottle. And so we were drinking the bottle, and the girls barely drank anything. And he was pounding, but he was driving, and I didn't want to drink that much, but he was driving, and he was super angry, and so I didn't want to set him off if I threw the bottle. So I didn't want to throw the bottle, so the only way I could get rid of it was by drinking it. So I was smashed crazy. I couldn't keep my eyes open, and the girls were freaking out at me because they're like, do something, because he was already driving bad and acting like an idiot. And I was like, what do you want me to do? I was like, I can't snap out of it. I can't drive. I was like, I can't even stay awake. And they're like, I don't know, do something. And I was all, fine. And I reached back up and I grabbed the bottle from him and I pounded the rest of it. And I was all, there, you can't drink anymore. And he's like, where's the rest of it? And I was like, I drank it. And he's like, well, all right then, I guess. And we got up to the spot to look at the sunrise and smoke the blunt, and I couldn't get out of the car because I was smashed. And they got out and they smoked, and then they got back in, and I fell asleep immediately. I saw them get in, I fell asleep immediately, and it was starting to snow. And on the first turn, the very first turn, the dude said, hey guys, check this out. And he pulled the e-brake on the turn.
Idiot.
And we spun out, we hit the curve, and we flipped down the hill. And I don't remember any of that. I was out completely, and I was actually like dreaming. I was having a good dream. And then it sounded like somebody was like way, way far away and was yelling my name. And I was like, what is that? And then it just like sort of like a train coming at you, it like get louder and louder and louder and louder until it was like right in my ear and fucking screaming, and it was like deafening. And that's when I woke up, and it was yelling in my ear, Derryk. And I woke up finally, and she was crying, and she's like, I thought you were dead. And when we flipped, because I'm so tall and everything, there was a baby seat, so she was sitting next to me. So she was pretty safe because she was like tight in between me and the baby seat. But because I'm all tall and we were flipping, I slammed my head against the car. So I think I got a concussion.
Oh, fuck.
And so we woke up and the car was like tilted. And the only reason it didn't go all the way down the hill is because we were stuck on a tree.
Jesus.
And so we had to fight to get out because it was like almost straight up. So we had to open the doors and jump out. And it had already been snowing for a little bit, so the whole side of the hill was already covered in snow, and it was like straight up. And everywhere you looked, there wasn't an easier hill to climb. Everywhere was straight up to the road. And so we were trying to climb up, and I had a jacket, but didn't have a jacket, so I gave her my jacket. And so I was freezing, and we were climbing up the hill, and it was all ice, so it was super hard to get up the hill. But that dude got up the hill, and then that chick got up the hill, and I got up the hill, and my friend was panicking because she was like stuck and she couldn't get up any higher, and we were already up there, so she thought we were like gonna leave her behind, so she's like panicking, like clawing at the snow, and her hands were turning purple and everything. And I was completely smashed still, so I had to go back down the hill and push her up. and finally got her up, and then we're like all the way up on the miles up the freaking road, almost at the ski basin.
That's fucking nuts.
And it was not ski season, so there's nobody driving by. We're like, we gotta find a way out of here. And somebody will be driving by, and there's like nobody driving. It's first thing in the morning, and it's not ski season. And so we started like walking, but luckily a trash truck was driving up, and we got him to stop, and we're like, we just need to ride down. But he was going up, and he's like, all right, I'll give you a ride down, but I gotta go up first. So we got in the truck and we went up to the ski basin, and he said, well, it'll take me about an hour. He said, if you guys want to wait. And so we were waiting for him, and I don't know what that dude and that other chick did, but me and her got rid of all our stuff and just threw it just in case. And then
like weed and paraphernalia and stuff.
Yeah. And then we chucked our pipes and stuff. And then he gave us a ride. We was all right, let's go. So we got in his truck and we were driving back down, and we were coming around the corner to where we flipped off, and there was cops all the way up and down the hill, and there was a tow truck that was trying to get the car up.
Jeez.
There was 2 tow trucks trying to get the car up, and we were driving by, and we were like trying to like pretend like we didn't know what was going on. And then right as the guy came even with where we wrecked and where there was a cop standing there, he stopped and he said, sorry guys, he said, I saw where you guys came from. I know that was you. He said, I can't let you guys go. He said, you guys gotta get out. So we're, oh shit. So we got out, and the cops came to us, and they're like, he had called them from up there, so they knew we were coming. And so he's like, they came up on us. They're like, who was driving? And we told them that a dude was. And so they grabbed him right away and took him. And luckily, all the focus was on him. So they didn't even take a second glance at us, really. And our other friends came up, and we had called them. So they were already headed up. So we weren't there for like 5 minutes, and they showed up. So we right away jumped in their car. And we were able to get out of there without getting in trouble. But later we found out that dude stole his roommate's car.
Oh, fuck.
So it was a stolen car and everything. And that chick was, like, that was the first time she had even met that dude.
Jeez. That's fucking nuts. What is wrong with people? This goes back to what I was talking about in some earlier episodes about Santa Fe being, like, I don't know, maybe a bad influence on the lower class, because people just make fucking horrible decisions, and everybody's getting in trouble, and everybody's doing stupid shit, and people die, and people don't care. It's fucking nuts. What is wrong? I don't understand this mindset that people get into. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, that's absolutely crazy. I just want to hear one more of your stories real quick, and this shouldn't be as long a story. Dude, we haven't even hardly touched the stuff I want to talk to you about, but I want to hear your concussion story, because you're fucking gonna have CTE, as many concussions as you've had. But when you were little, with the bike riding down with Michael, down the driveway, tell me about that story.
Yeah, well, I could tell you what I heard.
Okay.
I don't remember it, but we went to school, and we got out of school, and we went home, and of course we had nothing to do out there, so we were always just riding bikes and stuff. And he had his new bike and stuff, so he was like riding it everywhere. And we were like, oh, let's race down your driveway. And I didn't have a bike, and so we borrowed his cousin's bike. It was a girl's bike, a pink bike.
Oh, so you're saying that you're blaming the bike as the bike's fault?
No, I still won.
Okay.
But so me and him raced down the hill, and I guess I was giving it my all because I wanted to win. But at the bottom of the hill, they had PVC pipes going everywhere because they watered from the river. So one went across the road, and when I hit that PVC pipe, it threw me, like I ramped off it, and I flew off the bike, and I flew. It's like 30 feet from where I ramped to where the house was, and I slammed face first into the house.
And for the audio only listeners, if you want to see the picture, go to YouTube. For the YouTube viewers, I'm gonna insert a picture right here of the aftermath of that. That was fucking nuts, dude. It's weird because there's a lot of events throughout our life. And I'll give you another example. When I was younger, I don't even know if you were born. I think you were born. Mom got pregnant with twins. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were born. I don't remember her being big at all, but I saw a picture of her and she was fucking huge.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. I don't remember that. I don't remember seeing you after the concussion, but I was there. I remember it happening. I just don't remember seeing it until I saw the picture and I was like, fuck yeah, that's nuts, dude. Like, you hit that wall hard. Your face was fucked up.
Yeah.
That's nuts. When did your memory come back? When did you start remembering the event?
The next day when I woke up.
Damn.
When I woke up in the hospital.
Yeah.
I didn't know why we were there or why I was there. And then they told me, and I didn't. And it wasn't even like first thing when I woke up, because I had woke up and Dad had came and I was still out of it, so I didn't even know who Dad was.
Jeez.
And Dad got mad because I was like scared of him, but it wasn't because I didn't know who he was, because I was out of it.
Yeah.
And then whenever Mom tells the story, she's always like, "Oh, when you woke up, you kept asking for David." And it's not that I was asking for David, it's because I said, "When are we leaving?" And she said, "When David gets here." So I was like, when is he coming?
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking crazy. And there wasn't really bad decisions in that, so I like that. No alcohol involved. You were just a little kid. Okay, I lied. There's one more story I want to hear real quick before we move on topics. And to be fair, I think we're going to have to do another episode another time because, like I said, I have a list of things here that I wanted to talk about, and we haven't fucking hardly even touched anything on it. So, there was an incident, and the way Mom tells the story is you're a fucking hero, and you saved Chupadero from burning down. There was a field of cotton from the cottonwood trees that caught on fire, and you just so happened to be walking through that field at the time that it caught on fire. And so you're a fucking hero because you rescued everybody by trying to put the fire out and getting the fire department called up there.
Yep.
Tell me what happened.
Well, all the cotton is super flammable, so when you light it, it just like sort of like a firework. It burns real quick. Woof. And if there's like a big trail of it or a big spot, like you light it in the front and the center, and it just it goes out. So it's real cool to look at and stuff. But I had went down to Mike's house and he wasn't there, so I was like waiting for him to get home, and I was just hanging out by myself, and I had close calls with fires before, so I was making sure that the stuff I was lighting wasn't connected to anything. So like it's small, like they're alright patches, but like it was stuff that couldn't get out of hand. And I lit this one, and I didn't see where it was connected to the really big patch. And so when I lit it, it went out, and it went out to the big patch, and it just went everywhere, and all the leaves under it were lighting on fire. And I was trying to like chase and put it out, and running back and forth and trying to put it out. And
You fucking pyro.
yeah, I haven't lit cotton since that day. I even stopped carrying a lighter with me.
Okay, so anyway, you're trying to put this fire out.
But and as I was running back and forth, I was panicking, and it's getting all smoky. And I looked back, and there's like 7 fires, and the trees on fire.
Fuck.
And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this. And we're in the middle of 4 houses. And
Is that like behind Michael's house towards the river?
no, that was behind our house, on the side of our house.
Towards the river?
And like the river's like straight back, and it's like to the right of our house.
Oh shit. Oh, okay. Like
All
across
those
that little
trees
road.
are- yeah,
Yeah, okay.
all those big trees are right behind our
Damn.
house right
Okay.
there. So that's that big one. That's the one that started lighting on fire. That's what I was like. If that one goes, like, we're not gonna be able to stop this at all.
Fuck. And New Mexico has a really dry climate where fucking shit happens and fires erupt very fast and spread very fast. So
Yeah. So I was like, I can't do this by myself. So I ran into the road, and I jumped on my bike, and because I knew Mike's parents were outside working, so I took off on my bike over there, and I just saw them and I yelled, "Fire, fire," and I turned back around and went back to the fire and I grabbed a bucket because the creek like got diverted, so there was a tiny bit of the creek running through right there through those trees.
Sure.
So I was grabbing the bucket and filling it up and I was throwing it. And they came and had shovels and they were coming, and the other neighbors at the other side that were in the houses, they saw the smoke. So all those guys came out with shovels and stuff. So there's like 15 of us fighting this fire.
Damn.
But like everyone was going pretty slow, but I was going as fast as I could because it was my fault. So I finally put it out and I inhaled so much smoke and I was all sick after. But right when we got it all out is when the fire department pulled up. And I was like, I can't tell them it was me that lit it. So I was like, no, I was just riding down to their house and I saw the smoke. So I told them fire and I went back.
Dude, bad decisions.
Yeah.
Bad decisions. I guess there's a running theme here. Bad decisions make great stories, I guess, when people don't get hurt or die. But, dude, can you imagine the catastrophic outcome that could have had? That's fucking nuts. Like,
that's what I was planning.
I'm glad that you came wise to that and stopped carrying a lighter with you, you fucking pyromaniac.
Yeah. I learned that I can't have it with me at all.
Okay. Well, crazy stories. Thank you for telling them. I do want to go into... we haven't touched on any... Dude, there's so much I want to talk about. Let's just finish this with real quick. I want to know your experience with... from the time that I got you hired at Pep Boys as a lube tech until you became basically our master tech. How was that for you? Prior to you getting hired as the lube tech, what was your mechanical experience? And just for the listener, real quick before you start talking, Derryk is probably one of the most meticulous, best mechanics and best diagnostic people I know of. Like, I'll trust his word over a computer any day. Generally, when I've had Derryk do diagnostics for me, he presents you with two things. It's either this or this, so we start with the cheaper one, and sometimes it fixes it, sometimes it doesn't. And so then if it doesn't fix it, you move on to the more expensive one, and 99% of the time that fixes it. So he's very good and very knowledgeable. But he started as a lube tech for me at Pep Boys. What was that like for you?
That was cool. I mean, I wasn't too interested in working in cars. When you were having all your cars,
right,
it just seemed like work.
Yeah.
But when I bought my car, and then couldn't get that one fixed, so we bought the body, and then we transferred all the stuff over, and you were helping me, and then you were busy.
Yeah.
So then I was just like, well, I could do it, I'm sure. And then so I just started doing everything. And then as soon as we got that car going, I felt super accomplished about that.
Absolutely.
And then we drove that car around for a few months, and then the timing belt broke.
Yeah.
And then so I had to rebuild the engine or get a new one. And I was looking at all the prices of everything, and the price for the rebuild kit was like $350, and it costed me $150 for them to tell me it could be a timing belt or something. And I was like, I'm not gonna pay a shop to do something. I was like, I'd rather buy a $350 kit and try it myself, and if not, then I'll lose $350.
Right.
So I took the engine apart completely, and I did it all myself, and rebuilt it and got it running again. And then I thought that was really cool.
That was cool.
So I bought my next car, the Eclipse, that was broken down specifically. That needed a bunch of engine work, and I tore it all apart, every piece of it, and polished it and painted it.
Yeah.
And built it, and it was super awesome.
Yeah.
And then that's when I visited you at work, and you're like, just come work here. And they're like, yeah, you could do that. You could work here.
Yeah, but you had a meteoric rise. You went from lube tech to master tech within a year.
Well, yeah, because everything I did on the cars, on my cars, like I could do anything, like, because I was willing to do it. Like, it was my car, so I could mess it up if I wanted to. But like everything that I would do I would read for hours and hours
Yeah.
on everything, on how to do things. And if I read something on how to do something, I wouldn't read one article about it. I'd read at least 3.
That's how you do research. Proper research. Inform yourself. Educate yourself.
So everything I would do, I'd read articles over, and not, like I said, not one. I'd read
Right.
3 at least. And like, even if they said the same thing, I'd read 3 different point of views on it. And so I understood everything about it. And then when I was there, like, I knew a ton, but when I was there, there was a couple of good texts that taught me some good stuff too.
Yeah.
So they taught me some good tips and top of the stuff that I knew. And I don't know, it just makes a lot of sense to me whenever there's a problem, and if I can't figure it out, I'll just close my eyes and imagine the engine running and imagine why that could happen.
That's fucking way cool. I do want to be mindful of your time. We've been at it for an hour already, which crazy. I could fucking talk all day about all this. But there is one more little story that I want to tell, and we'll finish with that. Or I want you to tell. Something happened to you at Pep Boys while you were working there, and it fucked you up.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I went in on my day off to finish a car, and it's just a coolant job, radiator, and I was finishing up with it, like literally burped it. All I had to do...
Real quick, burping the coolant is getting all the air out of the system, so it's all coolant.
Yeah, and so all I had to do literally was put the cap onto the radiator.
Sure.
And when I put the cap on, I put my hand flat on it, and I turned. And when I was turning, the fan turned on, and it pulled my hand in, which was crazy because I would have never imagined that would happen. But it pulled my hand in, and it had a plastic cross on the outside of the fan. And right away I thought about that as I was pulling my hand down, and I was like, I gotta get my hand out before it gets to that cross. And so I ripped my hand out as hard as I could, but it hit the cross at the tip of my fingers, and it stopped the fan, and blood splattered everywhere, all over the engine, all over the hood, everywhere.
It shattered the fan, if I
Yep.
recall.
Yep.
For the listener, audio only, go to YouTube and you can see the pictures of the aftermath. And for the YouTuber, I'm going to insert some pictures right here. You went to the hospital, Mario, our service.
Well, then I still wanted to like finish, and I was like, oh, I'm sure the fan will be alright. I wasn't thinking right, of course, and I saw my hand was all bloody, and I didn't want to look at it right away, so I grabbed a shop rag and I wrapped my hand up so I couldn't see it, and I was like just trying to wipe up the blood on everywhere I could see, and then I went to the sink to like wash my hands and stuff, and get a wet rag to go back and clean some more, because it was like more and more blood as I kept cleaning up. And then when I got to the sink and I looked back where I came from, there was a trail of blood all the way from the Jeep to the sink, and I was like, oh no, that's not good. And
dang.
I went back, and nobody even saw it then. And I went back to the Jeep, and I was still trying to like clean it up and like hold my hand so it wasn't bleeding out. And then, but as I was cleaning, I kept looking back, and there was just more blood on the Jeep and on the bumper and stuff. And I was super lightheaded, so I was like, "Oh man, I need to get down for a second." And I laid down and I fell asleep. I don't know how long, a couple minutes, and I woke up and I got up, and there was a pool of blood where I laid down, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And so I went in to tell the bosses, so they knew that that wasn't gonna be done, and I had to go. So I went in and told them, hey, I gotta go to the urgent care, and they all just were like staring at me. They didn't say anything, and like they're waiting for like an explanation. So I was like, oh, and I unwrapped my finger and I held my hand up, and they all jumped out of their chair. Oh my god!
Yeah, I remember.
Mario, go, Mario!
I remember. I was there.
And he jumped down the stairs, and we
Yeah.
ran outside, and he took off, and we jumped in his car, and we took off quick.
Oh, and then something happened on the way to the hospital.
Yeah, we
Forgot about
we were
that.
going to urgent care, and then because I didn't want to get a hospital bill, the emergency room bill, so we were going to urgent care.
Sure.
And then we came up to a four-way stop, and there was a cop walking out to every car as the four-way stop. Well, what's this? And we weren't thinking because we were in a hurry. And then he walked up to us, and he's like, "Hey, I'm just Santa Fe Police. We're just conducting a seatbelt check." And we both looked down, and both of us didn't have our seatbelts on because we were hurrying to get there. And we were like, "Oh," we both started like talking, and we're like, "No, we're just going to this. We're just going to urgent care." And he hurt his hand, and then the cop was just like giving us that sort of stare that the bosses were. And I was like, "Oh," and I unwrapped my hand and I held it out to him, and he's like, "Go, go, go, go!" So we took off, and when I got to urgent care, and I went inside, and I was like, "Hey, I need somebody to check out my hand. I hurt it pretty good," and they're like, "What did you do?" And I unwrapped it and I showed them, and all of them like panicked, and they're like, "Oh, no, you can't be here. You gotta go to the emergency room. We can't help you here."
Fuck.
They're like, "You're gonna lose your fingers."
Jesus.
And so I called Mario back, and I was like, "Dude, you gotta take me to the emergency room. They can't help me here." And so he came back real quick, and then he took me to the emergency room, and I went to the counter there, and I told them that I hurt my hand at work, and that I needed to get seen, and they're like, "Well, is it bad?" And I said, "Yeah, it's bad." And I pulled out I did the same, unwrapped it, and I showed it to them, and they're like, "Okay, we'll be right with you." And I didn't have to sign any papers, or they didn't give me anything. They just told me they'll be right with me, and I started walk back to the seat to sit down, and then the doors opened up, and they're like, "All right, come with us." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then the girl grabbed my hand, and she looked at it, and she's like, "Yep, all right." And she's, "All right, people, you see this?" And she held my hand up. "This is an emergency." And then we went back, and my hands were all black because I was working on the car. So it was all black and all bright red from the blood.
Fuck.
And then they're like, "Well, they told the nurse, dude, you got to clean his hands really good." And I really couldn't feel it because it was all the adrenaline.
Jesus.
But he was like trying to be careful because it was like flapping around.
Ugh.
But he still had to like scrub pretty hard, and he got it way better than it was. But he was like, "I think that'll be all right." And then they were waiting for the doctor to come in, and then the doctor came in, and he was all, "What the hell? I thought they told them to clean your hand." And I said, "They did." And they said, "Yeah, it's way better than it was." And they said, "This isn't clean."
Oh, Jesus.
And he grabbed my hand, and he went at it so crazy. I almost passed out. He went at it so hard. He was scrubbing it, but it was like cleaner than I've ever seen it ever. So it was crazy. And then he had me put my hand flat on the table, and then he got a big old needle, and he stabbed the needle into each one of my knuckles and injected each one of them. And like when he was pushing in, I could feel him shaking because he was I could feel it in my body because he was having to push so hard to get into the knuckle.
Fuck.
Yeah, and so that numbed out my whole arm, and then
Damn.
and then he did all the stitches, and he went stitches through my nail and everything, which he had never
crazy.
done. He's like, I bet I could save that, and he did the stitches through my nail.
That's crazy.
It was 44 stitches.
44 stitches.
In my two tips of my finger.
It's fucking nuts.
And the only reason that I got to keep my fingers is because he did it, and it happened to be that he was on emergency duty because they all had to take turns, didn't matter what doctor they were, and he was one of the top 5 hand surgeons in the U.S.
Bro, that's nuts.
Yep.
What are the odds?
Yep.
That's fucking crazy. You have some experiences, and we haven't even touched on like the other topics I want to talk about, but damn. Well, thank you for like I said, I want to be mindful of your time, so thank you for taking the time to drive all the way down here and do this with me. I really appreciate it, and I want to do it again so we can cover the rest of what I want to talk to you about. But you have lived an extraordinary life, whether that be good, bad, or the other. I appreciate you, and I look forward to doing this again.
Heck yeah, me too.
All right, bro. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye. Bro, you fucking have some crazy ass stuff. Sarah thinks I have fucking crazy stories.
And all of them are real. I don't make up any of these stories.